Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sessions Café, brought to you by Entrigue magazine. I'm your host, Keri Singleton, and today we welcome Justin Green to the show. How are you, my brother?
I am well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming to the show, man. You were a true artist.
Yes.
Many people use that term and then they're really rappers or dancers or something to that effect. Not that that's not art, but you were a true artist, as in your pencil, your paintbrush, etc. That's your microphone. And you've been an art instructor since 2013, teaching in therapeutic foster homes. I really want to start the conversation with that, because that's pretty interesting that you use your talents to help other people, and I really think that's a really fascinating component of your story. How did that come about?
So in 2013, I was a foster parent. I became a foster parent with a therapeutic foster parenting organization. And
congratulations! Thank you.
And
for your service. Yeah.
So 2013, I would say, it was around in the fall of 2013. I was offered the opportunity to instruct for one of the homes, one of the foster homes.
Wow.
So we would meet weekly, and we would just do paint lessons or do crafts and all types of things like that. So it started there.
Okay.
And then I just started teaching in other places. So that was the starting of my instructing.
Can you give me a little bit of background on what exactly therapeutic being a therapeutic art instructor entails?
Yes. So it highlights the importance of art as therapy. So whereas, at one point in time it was focused on just creative expression, but there's emotional benefits to creating art, as we all know and experiences in different backgrounds in art, music, whatever we do, writing, poetry, there is something therapeutic and healing to that. And when you're in an audience that may have different challenges, different PTSD and things like that, we use that to really highlight and tap into the creative piece, to see how it could, offer them a different perspective on their own emotions, help them to see themselves, and also experience joy in the midst of that as well. So,
are you able to at all, Justin, tap in to some of the emotional depth of some of your clients?
You can tell based upon certain things, there are certain uses of color, maybe the way that they, apply their brush stroke or their pencil. You can tell when maybe there's something that they're trying to communicate or they're feeling. You can just ask questions and probe a little bit, and you'll find out things, through that way.
Wow, man, that's. When did you start drawing? I have to ask you this. Was it stick figures like everybody else? Did it start for you with a couple of stick figures and dogs and cats with sticks and circles?
Yeah, doodling in church. You know how church is.
No, I don't.
I'm
just kidding.
As a child, you're just, it's long and boring. So you have little programs, and I'm sketching little doodles on a program in church for hours. Yeah, and then second service, third service, you're just sitting there all day. So it just started off just in sketching on church programs.
Wow. And that's a story.
Yeah.
You were being a heathen, and it became a career. Wow.
Yep.
Well, same here. When you were a kid, favorite animated TV shows?
Oh, easy. Rugrats, Sailor Moon, Blue's Clues, Dragon Ball Z. They were my main ones. Reading Rainbow wasn't really a cartoon, but I enjoyed the Reading Rainbow. Magic School Bus. But it was Blue's Clues. That was the big one for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you watch it from the perspective of a person that would be a future cartoonist or an animator?
No.
No, you just, the same way that I watched, I guess, I don't know, Woody Woodpecker is the same way that you watched. You didn't say, wow, look at that wing or that. No, you just watched it.
No, it was just, it was just more so how it tickled my imagination. If anything, I enjoyed what my imagination was doing watching the cartoons, but I didn't think today that I'd be doing that, no.
I was never big on comic books. Maybe look at your face. It's like, what?
Yeah.
No, I just wasn't.
No.
My little cousin, Abdul Wahid, was huge. He had a huge comic book collection.
Yeah.
I had a huge CD collection.
Yeah.
I didn't care about Spider-Man. I was more interested in Janet Jackson and Jodie Watley.
Yeah.
But you obviously, by the facial expression that you projected, were into comic books. No, you weren't.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I wasn't
okay.
really a fan. I agree with you. It was kind of like, you know, I knew I had friends that were into them, but it was kind of like, I enjoyed like reading them, but it was the I liked animation. I liked to see the movement. So I mean, yeah, you had the moments and you're flipping through and you get that picture, but it's not the same, you know, hearing the voices and having the sensory experience of like the full thing. You know what I mean?
Did you have like any favorite superheroes? Because again, we're going to get into the fact that one of your fortes is animated characters, above other things, I think.
Did I have a superhero? Man, that's a good question. I didn't really have a favorite superhero. But yeah, I think, no, I didn't really have one. No. Yeah.
So how did, as a child then, I mean, we get that you were doodling at church, but at what point did you kind of get a larger appreciation for animation? I guess that's where I'm going.
I think, you know what's funny, now that you're saying this, now I'm getting flashbacks. It was I think I was probably 17 years old. That's when I was playing around with like buying the drawing books and all those things.
Okay.
And one of the activities in the book was to like draw a like the concept art, not the concept art, but like the I forget what it's called right now, but like the different pieces for a comic. You had to like make your own comic. Okay. And I was using like an intermingling, like a little bit of some anime stuff in there, but it kind of started there. Like I think I just was grabbing drawing books, but it wasn't until I think, it's like when I got older, I began to appreciate the animation stuff when I got, you know, looking back. But at that time, it was just something that I enjoyed, but it didn't really mean as much, you know, but I think it was COVID, honestly.
Wow, okay.
That's what it was. Because I have a children's show, and it was like things were feeling grim, and not to mention I was teaching art. I was teaching art all over the place at this point, up until COVID. So like 2017, 2019, I was like instructing all over the place, and I mean up in Brooklyn at one point, and then everything stopped. So I'm like, oh man. Everything started to feel like grim and just like whack. So I'm like, I want to create that feeling that I felt when I was a child, 8 in the morning, watching Saturday morning cartoons as a form of a children's show that was like Bob Ross-esque, you know, that gave me that feeling, that kind of like that nostalgic or that safety. And it just kind of went on from there. So it was, I think, the state of the world at the time that made me want to go back to that.
And how did you go from drawing to teaching? Because there's a big difference between the two. Between drawing for enjoyment purposes and teaching. I
think, I don't know, you know what's funny? I've always kind of had that, but it just, the opportunities just weren't present themselves then. But when they did, it just kind of happened naturally. I just was like, okay, I know how to do, you know, it was just describe everything and be as detailed as possible and try to break it down into simple steps. And it was pretty.
So I'm like, I'll use spades as an example. Love the game, though I haven't played in decades, but could never teach it, right? Is it difficult to, because you had to have patience, I guess, and which I don't have a lot of that, to be honest, but is it difficult to teach somebody to draw? And when you are teaching somebody, are you kind of aspiring to make them as good as you are, or are you trying to just improve upon what their level of drawing is?
Part of it is helping them to enjoy the process, because a lot of the times it's like, I gotta be perfect. And it's like, no, you don't have to be perfect. And you're not gonna become Da Vinci like in an hour training, a painting session, you know? So you have to just take it a step at a time. And you're just, you try to break things down into basic shapes and, you know, try to explain things, you know, as simple as possible so that, you know, it's easy to understand and interpret. And, you know, so you come knowing that it's not going to be as good as you would imagine it to be.
Right.
You know?
Right. So this next question is not in my Justin Green life book here. This is just on the fly, but it's something that I think that a person as deeply into the art as you are could answer. Why do certain characters, like you had The Simpsons, right, and other cartoons where the characters in the animated series, it seemed like anybody could draw them. They weren't intricate characters like a Mighty Mouse or a Batman. They were spiked hair, and it seemed like a 5-year-old could have drawn it. How does that become a thing? Like, how does that become?
You know, I don't know, but sometimes it seems like, I think the average person, the complexity doesn't really do anything. I think sometimes being really simple, just as simple as possible, it leaves more to the imagination, I think, and there's something more to connect to when you have a circle with like 2 eyes that are crooked and like a mustache. You're like, okay, but for some reason they're the most popular and they have this element to them that's not what you would expect. Right. Maybe there's some type of childhood connection to that. I don't really know for certain, but I see why to a degree, like why it's popular.
Before we go into we're going to go into a break in a minute, but we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some other things that you do professionally. But what are your loves or takes on other types of art, like paintings and murals and graffiti? What are your opinions on those types of art?
I think murals can bring people together. I like seeing murals. I think they have there's something about the fact that it has an archival quality to it. Like if you leave it alone, you know, leave it alone for centuries, it's a really great conversation piece, but it's a point in time that you can connect to. Right. Graffiti art, I know one of the youth I work with, he does graffiti work. I like it. There's different ways that we express ourselves and that say different things about what we've gone through or what we're looking to achieve and all that. So it's so multi-layered, you know what I mean? But I don't have a particular preference. I like all of it because it all says something different and it, you know, communicates something that it just brings us together. We're all saying sort of the same thing, but just expresses differently.
And that's one of the amazing things about art is that it does bring us together. Yeah. You have a plethora of things underneath your J. Green multimedia umbrella, and we're going to talk about that when we come back from this break, all right?
Okay.
And we'll be right back with Justin Green here on Sessions Cafe. And we're back here on Sessions Cafe TV talking to Justin Green. So let's talk about J. Green Multimedia. You have a children's show streaming on GT Network and YouTube, Jay's Paint House. Now, I've watched a couple of episodes, and obviously I'm not 5. But I really, really dug the charisma that you have and the fact that you're really able to connect with kids. And it's so cool that, I mean, I know you as an adult, and yet you're so animated with the kids. Like, how do you transition in terms of your own character from Justin Green, the adult, to Justin Green, the person who hosts this show?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I'm like the same. I mean, you know,
really?
you know when to, you know what I mean. You know when you're presenting in your certain spaces, you have to, you know, maturity. But
not really. I don't.
Sort of, kind of.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but you know, I know. I'm very in touch with my inner child, so I'm always I'm animated regardless. Yeah. So
very quirky, and I'm like, whoa, like, gee. Yeah. And what inspires you to start your own children's show?
It was COVID. I was like, I just want that. I want that feel. I want that Saturday morning cartoon feel, but in a way where it's educational. You're learning about art. You're learning about painting, but there's some critical thinking piece to it a little bit.
Correct.
Where it's not as it's a different type of education.
Right.
So something like that.
Give us a synopsis of Jay's Paint House in your own words.
Okay. So my character, I have like a right-hand character, which is like a little panda bear.
Okay.
We pretty much are like sidekicks. We walk around, we meet people in need of different things. We pretty much figure out what they need and we paint it, like I teach you how to paint it. Afterwards, we bring it to life. We shake the canvas, bring the thing to life. It jumps out of the canvas and it saves the day, sort of, kind of. So the character can go on about their business. And we learn a little bit about painting, so there's some art techniques in there, but it's about teaching children that you can pretty much make whatever you want.
Wow.
So it's like that little.
And how did you come up with that concept? Is that sort of autobiographical in terms of your maybe in your own life you felt the need to help others?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm playing psychiatrist over here.
No, but it's also it's true though.
Yeah.
But it's also, the power of art. You genuinely can like change your life through a painting.
Yeah.
Literally. So it's that same element, but just in a child digestible way. Yeah.
So you have 7 children's books.
Yes.
The first time that I met you was when you were a guest on my radio show a couple of years back, and you brought the books in, and I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, these are fantastic. I don't have kids, and so I don't even have nephews or nieces. So I have like no young people around me at all.
Really?
And so, and even if I did, I have OCD, so they couldn't come in my house. But anyway, on a serious note, I was just fascinated with the professionalism that your books had.
Thank you.
The art was awesome, the storylines. So let's break down your career as an author. First and foremost, why children's books?
Because it's just the most closest to me. I mean, the adult material is complex, and I think sometimes you can say the most in the simplest way possible. Right. So it just makes the most sense. Not to mention I'm a big child, so it just works. It just makes the most sense.
Now, what was it like? Well, let's take a title of your first book. The title of your first book.
Oh, it was my first published one was Money Camp. We shop at Dollarland on Fridays.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was about the author was looking to teach children about financial literacy. So it was like, oh, well, can we teach children how to save, spend, and and all of that. So I think it's like a 30-page book about different ways to save money to go to the dollar store and purchase something for children to buy stuff at the dollar store.
And so you did all of the illustration.
Yes.
So now, how does that work when the author writes a story? Does he or she give you the script, and then you just go ahead and decide how you want it to come across artistically?
Yes.
Okay.
So they hand me the manuscript. At some times I'll design the entire book. So I'll illustrate, and then I'll also do the actual words as well, like the actual the word is slipping my mind right now. So I'll put it out, all the formatting and everything, and the words, the spelling, everything, and then of course with the illustration and all that fun stuff. So
first book that you illustrated when it came out, and you had it in your hand, and your artwork, your illustration is now published. Look at you smiling because you're thinking back to that moment. I've been there as an author. You held it in your hand and said, wow, I have created art that is published and is going to be on bookshelves. What was that moment like for you?
It didn't feel real. I was like, this is the real thing? That was my question. I kept asking myself, like, this is real? It was really cool to see that. And myself and the author, we were just so proud of each other because that was her first book as well. So it was like our first, you know, like completion of something.
Right.
It was really cool. It was really cool.
Wow. And did you go along with her on the book signings, or was she on the promotional campaign? Were you a part of that?
Did she go on a promotional campaign? I don't think she did. I don't think she did.
No.
It was more social media, and I think around this was right around COVID, a little before.
Okay.
But yeah, it was more of like social media, you know, noise and all that.
Now, getting back to your obvious love for helping other people, and I really appreciate that, Justin. You do a monthly therapeutic arts course for veterans in Lindenwold, which is in South Jersey, where you're from.
Yeah.
How did you get plugged into that first?
So I have been connected to Spectra Care, the organization, since October of 2020. They were doing like a flag raising ceremony, and I got connected to them to take some pictures. It started just through some photography work. I was taking pictures.
Okay.
And they saw that we had a conversation, we connected more, and they saw that you know, that I'm an artist. And as the organization was getting built, because it was getting built at the time, it was still foundation, everything was like out and raw and open. And as time went on, they proposed the idea, like, maybe you should, you know, if you're interested in doing some monthly classes with the veterans. I'm like, sure, no problem. I didn't mind doing it. And it just took off from there. We just started doing monthly classes in different mediums, and it was just a consistent thing, and we're still doing it.
Now, what is some of the difference between working with the veterans versus the children in terms of teaching first, and in terms of the relationships that you build with your students secondly?
Yeah, that's a good. So with the veterans, I feel more like the student with the veterans because they're, you know, a lot of them are older. So I'm always learning stuff, you know. I mean, even with the children, I'm still learning stuff, but it's a different experience. You know, you feel smaller when you're with the veterans. But there is a different approach. The artists or the veterans there are more cautious when creating, whereas the children, they don't care. They're just like, let's just go, you know. And you'll find that it's a lot more calmer too. You know, with children, it's all over the place. Yeah, it's it's louder with the little ones, but with the seniors and the veterans, it's much more placid. It's calmer, and you know, it's jazz music playing. You know, it's a certain vibe in there, and we're all talking and getting to know each other and all that.
So how do you feel in terms of the individual relationship that you build with your students? How is that different with the veterans versus the children?
With the children, there's this, look at me, look at my, you know, it's a different type of feeling you get, whereas with the veterans, it's a relationship that it's geared upon different experience.
Okay.
And there's some pain there as well. You know what I mean? So it's a more I would say wholesome connection. Yeah. Not to suggest that the children aren't, but it's different when you have veterans coming from war and different things like that. You know, connecting with you.
Absolutely. Wow. Now I've seen your work on radio shows, books, etc. What would you say for you as an artist? How is it different creating art for, say, a radio show versus someone's book?
I think, is there a difference?
Yeah, I don't know. Is there?
Because, you know, I'm thinking like, you know, there's an audience for both. I think, I don't think there would be necessarily a difference. You know, because I take it all serious. So I don't think it's, I don't think it would be much of a difference.
What about arts? Seeing art as self-therapy and or an escapism, do you, this is a very personal question actually, do you utilize art as self-therapy for yourself? Because obviously your students do.
Yeah.
How does picking up a pen make you feel better after a day of, I don't know, traffic jams or something to that effect?
I'll use an example. So 2017, I had a really, really bad relationship some familial stuff going on at the time. So there was some art that just sort of came to me, and to a degree where I needed to just get out some issues that I was facing, and I just wanted to get through. And it was sort of like a future self reflective type of work that I still look at, and it still has an impact on me to this day, and this is 2017.
Right.
That still speaks to my growth and my healing from, just from things from my past.
Right.
So yeah, it's very real. I definitely connect to art in that way.
I have an interesting question for you.
Okay.
He's nervous. He's like, oh my God, what's
Oh,
going on? So a couple of years ago, you did some artwork for my radio show. And I remember saying, just come up with whatever you want. I don't want to give you any direction. I don't want to give you any parameters, and just go for it. And I was like, do me a favor, draw a collection of all of the members of the radio show at the time, and then draw me separately, right? Now, I asked you, I didn't even give you a picture. I said, if you go on social media, you'll see what these people look like. How did that come together? Like, how did you decide to make one of us have big eyes and the other one with glasses, for example? How did that come about?
Yeah, the likenesses, I think that's the best way when doing any type of cartoon work, is to capture the likeness of a person and examining their features and then exaggerating them or just highlighting them. You know what I mean? So, and if I can gauge a personality, if I can just kind of analyze from a distance, I'm like, he seemed like this type of person. Let me just do this pose, or let me do that. Those types of things have an impact on the way it looks. But yeah, it's definitely a thing I look at. I see okay, this person has glasses on, or their nose is a little like this, or they have big ears. You just play on those things. Yeah.
You actually came to the radio show and saw me and my antics on the air.
Yeah.
And I wondered if your artistic vision of me as a cartoon character came from the physicality, or did it come more from the personality? Or maybe it was a mixture of both.
A mixture of both, but it was the Crocs thing.
Yep.
It was the Crocs.
I don't
thing.
wear them.
I know, but that stood out.
Right,
You were like, I hate those
like
Crocs.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm going to put that on a hat for him.
Yeah.
Because that makes, just matches.
Personality.
Yeah, and then the glasses, certain things, I can kind of identify and tell about you. I was like, okay, well, do this, but I'm going to fit it with no Crocs on it. And glasses and the smile, get all that in there and put it in there.
Well, to this day, it's one of the pieces of artwork that I treasure most, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let everybody know how they can link up with you. I know you have a website, which is pretty cohesive, and you can go to it. Let everybody know how they can reach you.
My website is thejustingreen.com.
Okay.
There you can just find ways to contact me, the different services for art instruction, for painting, whatever. I'm on there.
Well, thank you for being you, Jay, and thank you for making the world a more colorful place. Lord knows nowadays, more than ever, we need as much color and animation as we can get. In a good sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So thank you for all that you do for the kids, for the veterans, and for everybody in general. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. And we'll be back next week with more Sessions Cafe.